I'm annoyed with Donald Trump as well. Little side project I've got going on. I'm trying to book Syrian refugees into Donald Trump's hotels. What's going on? It's going okay. It's going okay. I was annoyed when Fox News said that we're 100% Muslim, because there's a subtext to that. When they say we're 100% Muslim, what they're saying there is that we should be worried about that. There's something terrifying, frightening about Muslims. I think we've got a problem. I think we're using the word Muslim far too quickly to describe people doing atrocities when they don't represent Muslims any more than I do. And I think we should be using a more accurate word for those people, which I'm going to argue is knobhead. There'd be levels of knobhead. You'd have a moderate knobhead, all the way up to fundamental knobhead. And if we all did it, the news would have to catch up. They'd have to go, today, 2 knobheads bombed a car. They'd have to do it if we all did it. And it wouldn't necessarily be to do with just terrorist activity. Any knobheady activity would get the knobhead word. I've thought of some. People that wear a festival wristband after a festival. I went to Reading. It's November, you're in a Costa, you're a knobhead. Couples that put a lock on a bridge, you're both knobheads. Sorry, hate that, hate it. Sanctimonious mothers, I've got to be careful here. I don't mean all mothers, just a lot of my friends are having children at the minute, and it's the sort of mothers that go, don't tell me how to raise my kids. And you're like, okay, but she is trying to eat a petit filou with an electric razor, so... You're a bit of a knobhead, aren't you? Ever so slightly. Amanda Holden, fundamental knobhead. I just don't like it. Don't encourage me, because I'm sure she's lovely. I think she's despicable. She did to our Les. Met one of my friend's kids last year. Friend I went to university with, her daughter. I avoided this child for 4 years. She's 4 years old. I'd heard bad things. Met her last year. She's the worst person I've ever met. And I've met Aon Holmes. I won't use her real name, that would be unfair. Let's call her Mugabe. And she was very... just spoiled, really. We were sat at dinner, and she was here, and she was kicking me in the legs. And at one point, she caught my shin, and I went, fuck! She started crying. The mum said, please don't swear in front of my child. I was like, oh, is that your child? I thought someone just condensed North Korea into a small woman, actually. Little bitch.
Did a lot of gardening in lockdown. Another thing I did, which I really recommend, I did loads of this, and it's really good for anyone's mental health, and it's really simple. All you do is troll Alan Sugar. It's so simple. Alan Sugar, I'm sure you know who he is, a billionaire. He's, you what? Sorry, Lord Alan Sugar. That's the lawyers over there. It's Lord, actually, I think you'll find. Yes, Lord Wanker Alan Sugar. He's a billionaire, he's hosted The Apprentice, and at the start of lockdown, people were losing their jobs, their lives, it was an awful time. He posted this to Twitter. This is him next to his private jet during a global pandemic. Collected the new plane today, flew it down from Knoxville to Pompano Beach. I thought, you're not reading the room here, Alan. So I replied to this tweet and I said, drove my Ford Fiesta home base today, but you don't see me tweeting about it. Either way, I'm horny, how about you? This started an absolute flirt fest with Alan Sugar, because he replied to this. He said, but you did tweet it, you double-barrel He thinks I'm a princess. That opened the floodgates to me flirting with him every morning in lockdown, sending this sort of thing. Good morning, my little Lord Sugar Puff. I mean, I did so many. I sort of lost my mind, really, but I did it because I think he's a twat. I think he's lost it. I think he's a bellend. And I think he'll die before me, but if he doesn't, I don't want him to win. And I thought about this. I was like, how do I win against Alan Sugar in death? And I solved this problem. And what I've done is I've rewritten my will. This is my actual will. This is page 2. If you look at section 6, Alan Sugar gets the Ford Fiesta. Not only that, it's filled to the brim with sugar puffs. Because he'll hate it. Swat.
I want to tell you about a little project I've been working on for the last year. And there's no nice way of saying this. There's no easy way of saying this. I'm just going to have to rip the plaster off. For the last year, just under a year, I have been trying to destroy the career of Tom Daley. There's no easy way of saying it. I've said it. It's gone. It's out there now. I've said it. I should caveat all of this by saying I think Tom Daley's amazing in lots of ways. He's an Olympic diver. I'm sure you're aware of Tom Daley. He's gay. I think he was pushed into coming out as gay before he was necessarily ready. There was a lot of fuss about it from the gay press, and he's been a brilliant gay rights advocate in lots of ways. You might have seen that him and his husband Lance Black announced a few months ago that they're having a baby together. Shouldn't be a brave thing to do in this day and age, but it was. He got a lot of nastiness, and he's been serene throughout the whole thing, so I do think he's brilliant. However, I now want to slag him off. So, Tom Daley irked me last summer for 2 reasons, 2 Instagram posts, and I'll show them to you now. This is the first one. This is him at Gay Pride. Love the way that he's extending his arm out there to show the parade march there. Love the look of a smile on his face. Beautiful framing there. Before I go into too much detail about this, what's going on with the hand? Where is the other finger? I've looked at it loads. I don't know if it's a lighting thing, whether it was edited out. I don't know how that happens. I've got no issue with any of that, really, apart from the weird finger. I've got no issue with this other post. Beautifully framed again. His skin looks radiant in that little triangle. Marvellous. Brave to wear a tank top, but he seems to manage it. I think it's wonderful. It's a lovely... I've got no issue with any of this. I think it's all brilliant. I have no issue with any of this as well. Happy Pride, everyone. It's been so awesome to take part in my first ever Pride. He'd not been before. But let's not forget why we have this day and how much more we have to fight for in many other social justice movements around the world. No issue with any of that. Brilliant that he went to Pride. I think we all should at some point in our lives. It's good fun, if nothing else. My issue with both of these posts is not what's in them, it's what's underneath them, and that is this. At Barclays UK, #ad. That means that Tom Daley was sponsored by Barclays to go to Pride. And I don't have a problem with Tom Daley being sponsored to do lots of things. I understand when you're an athlete, you've got to make your money while you can. You're not monetizable forever. You might break your leg. Totally get being sponsored. But to be sponsored to go to Pride, which is a political event, it made me uncomfortable. It's sort of like going Black Lives Matter with Tesco. It made me uncomfortable. And I didn't want to make a big deal of this. I thought it's an error in judgment in some ways. Didn't want to make a big fuss about it. All I thought I'd do is a bit of light trolling of Tom Daley. That's all I thought I'd do. So what I did is I went onto this very post and I commented on it with hashtags of rival banks. That's all I did. Hashtag NatWest, hashtag Santander, hashtag HSBC. And for some reason, dozens of other people started doing it as well. Hashtag Northern Rock, a nice nostalgic one. Vietcombank, an international one. Dozens of people did this, and I know that celebrities get paid loads for this. Barclays will have had a PR team all over it. I should mention that I've trolled Tom Daley in a lot lighter way about 3 years ago. He posted to his Twitter a little post basically saying, just take the image below, personalise it. Just wanted you to customise an image in your own way. That's all he wanted you to do. Of course, I put him in a smack den. Who wouldn't in my position? Open bloody goal, Tom.
I should tell you some things before I get on with the show. The first thing that's really important, because this has been a bit of a confusing issue. I am not James Acaster. That's James Acaster. I've got to be very clear about this, because he's a brilliant comedian. He's a great friend of mine, but he said that people keep shouting my name at him in the street. We don't look similar, do we? I don't think we look similar at all. Anyway, my agent said we need to do some posters to promote the tour. Have you got any ideas? I'd been drinking. This is what I came up with. I was furious because sales shot up. Got me into all sorts of legal headaches. Had to do a public apology. I said I'll never again use James Acaster's image without his prior approval. I've agreed to not play Kettering on the tour. That's where he's from. And I said within the apology post I will publish the correct tour poster, which is attached, and then I attached the correct one. So it's absolutely... I'm being silly. That's Claire Boulding, another lesbian. Don't worry, it's absolutely fine. That was the correct tour post. That's the correct one. Well, actually, technically, that's the correct one, but...
But he's also a prankster. He's a troll. And I'm a troll, but he did it to me and I didn't like it. It was one of the worst things that happened to me. And actually, funnily enough, it's happened to me here. We were in the pub the week before I was doing the Royal Variety. It was only with Charles and Camilla, not the proper ones. Who gives a shit? And he said to me, how are you feeling about Royal Variety? And I said, I'm really nervous. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say. There's like loads of protocol. Obviously, you can't swear, but there's loads of things you wouldn't realise where like little things that you just can't say. And I said, I'm really nervous. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he knew what he was doing because he went, well, you wouldn't want to say Diana was murdered, would you? No, why did you put that in my head the week before Royal Variety? And it was rolling around in my head the whole bloody week. And I was stood side of stage. It was literally just there at Royal Variety because it was in this room. And I was quaking with nerves. And I don't normally get that nervous about stand-up. Got my little jacket on. I was really shivering with nerves. I could see Charles and Camilla through a gap in the curtain. They were up there somewhere, proper shaking. And I was going through my notes on my phone to remind myself of what I was going to do, what my material was going to be. And I shouldn't have told him, but I told him what time I was going on stage. And he texted me seconds before I went on stage. And it was just a picture of Diana on her wedding day. And then underneath, don't let her down. I got a mug from my auntie which has got a motivational quote on it, and I hate a motivational quote. The quote is, you've got the same amount of hours in the day as Beyoncé. But not the resources, Janet.